Tonight, in this edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinox Television, the elections governing body has delocalized polling stations in military barracks across the national territory to curb fraud, but is it enough to guarantee transparency within the ranks of opposition party leaders in Cameroon? We shall be telling you more on that in this edition of the news. And in the second part of this newscast, our guest is going to be telling us the effectiveness of that measure that was put in place yesterday by the Elecam board chair in the nation's capital, Yaoundé. What are the reactions of some opposition party leaders here in the country's economic capital, Douala? We will be telling you more on that in this edition of the news. Plus, the President of the Republic of Cameroon, accompanied by over a dozen ministers in the country, have so far left Cameroon for China to take part in the China-African Summit that is taking place in China. The meeting is expected to take place between the 3rd to the 4th of September 2018. We shall be telling you more on that in just a moment. Stay with us. Good evening to you once again, ladies and gentlemen. We thank you so much for joining us in this edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinox Television. Let's begin right away in the nation's capital, Yaoundé. The President of the Republic, that would between the 3rd to the 4th of September 2018 be attending the China-African Summit Cooperation Forum. The head of state, accompanied by Shanta Bia and 12 government ministers in the country. They are the Minister of External Relations, Lejeune Belambela, the Director of Civil Cabinet at the Presidency of the Republic, Samuel Vondo Ayolo, Lukma Grambanga Tangana, Cameroon's Minister of Commerce, the Minister of Economy, Planning and Regional Development, Alamin Ousmane May, Jean-Ernest Ngale Bibehe, the Minister of Transport in Cameroon, Enes Ngwabobo, the Minister of Mines, Energy and Technological Development, Minister Dion Gute Joseph, the Minister Delegate at the Presidency in charge of Special Duties at the Presidency of the Republic. And for other officials that have so far accompanied the head of state to China, we have the President of the Chamber of Commerce and the President of GCAM. The meeting or the forum is due to foster business cooperation between Cameroon and China. Other African countries are expected to take place in the gathering that is due to begin next week, the 3rd and the 4th of September 2018. On to something else. Elections Cameroon has acted as requested by opposition party leaders in the country. The chairman of the electoral board yesterday announced the delocalization of polling stations in military barracks and palaces across the national territory. But as we are going to be seeing in the following report, Elecam is still to fulfill series of oppositions or propositions from opposition party leaders in the country to guarantee a transparent election in Cameroon come the 7th of October 2018. Details in the following report.
La meilleure façon de nous faire entendre, c'est de manifester.
It took days of pressure from the Social Democratic Front, principal opposition party in Cameroon, for polling stations to be delocalized from military barracks and palaces. But before taking the move, Elecam officials in different outings aired diverse opinion. Abdul Karimo, Assistant Elecam General Manager, had said that no law forbids the presence of polling stations in military barracks, and added that family members of military personnel and traditional authorities are taking part in the voting exercise. But the chairman of the electoral board, Eno Abrams Egbe, while meeting with diplomats in Yaoundé, pledged to get rid of the polling stations in military barracks, which to critics is just a step towards a fraud-free election in the country. However, there are several existing factors since the return to multi-party politics in 1990, which put the credibility of elections to question, despite the putting in place of the Electoral Code in 1992 and 2012. The opposition in Cameroon has continued to call for the putting in place of a single ballot system and a two-round presidential election, amongst others. The delocalization of polling stations is just a single solution to the series of problems raised with regards to the conduct of elections organized by the elections governing body in Cameroon. And victims of Boko Haram atrocities in the far north region of Cameroon have been granted humanitarian aid by the Minister of Territorial Administration, Paul Atanganji. Minister Paul Atanganji also assured the rehabilitation of destroyed structures in Kolofata and reinforcement of security in Gaundiri. Innocent Azet tells us more in the following report.
It was in a bid to put smile on the faces of victims of Boko Haram attacks and hostilities that Paul Atanganji, Minister of Territorial Administration, travels to Marwa, notably in Kolofata, far north region of Cameroon. Boko Haram barbaric acts like killing, burning down of structures and homes, and lot of others rendered most inhabitants homeless, plunging them into famine. In order to show solidarity, Minister Paul Atanganji located them with humanitarian aid comprising foodstuff and mattresses. Hospitals which have been taking charge of casualties of Boko Haram attacks were encouraged with equipment. Refugee camps were not also left out of the humanitarian gesture. From Marwa, the minister had a stop in Gaundiri, Adamawa region, where he held a security and evaluation meeting with top authorities of the region. During the meeting, he urged authorities to fight against and put an end to abduction and highway robbery.
Here you have groups of bandits, and for the past 1 year we have had some criminals who have taken the duty to take people hostage and to ask for money. And from our evaluation, the forces of law and order have been able to track them. They have been arrested and they have been sent to the judiciary for investigations.
He has, however, called on the population of the northern regions to synergistically combat terrorism and protect polling stations as the presidential election draws near.
The region of Adamawa is calm. We are living in a serene atmosphere, and we have major challenges. The first challenge is the forthcoming presidential election on the 7th of October. President Paul Biya instructed us to tell the administrative authorities to accompany ELECAM. ELECAM is an independent body charged with the organization of elections. So they have to protect the materials, they have to protect the offices, and they have to protect the electoral process.
Observers have viewed this gesture as political to win the people's vote for President Paul Biya.
If officials are seeking or strategizing to reinforce security during the electoral period in the far north region and Adamawa region of Cameroon, it seems not to be a similar situation in the conflicted northwest and the southwest regions of the country, where parents have decided to send their children to other regions of Cameroon to take part in the 2000 or register in the 2018-2019 school year. Lay, private as well as government institutions here in the country's economic capital Douala have continued to receive students from the northwest and the southwest regions seeking admissions for the next school year in the country. If some lay private institutions have decided to extend their classrooms to accommodate the students, it is not a similar case in some government schools that were visited by our reporter Smart Njikan Gabriel. He tells us more in the following story.
A very busy Bonaberi Park Tuesday. Most of those entering as we gathered are coming from either the southwest or northwest region of Cameroon to seek for admission into colleges in Douala as the new school year opens. At a lay private institution in Bonaberi, school officials say they are set for the upcoming school year with concrete steps taken to host students from the troubled regions.
The crisis that is going on in the northwest and southwest regions, many parents are rushing around to get a place for their children. So I think that the classrooms will be able to accommodate the children and all those who are coming around for registration. So spaces are still open for everybody. Registration is ongoing. and we shall continue till the end of this week.
At the government bilingual high school in Deido, the principal says a good number of students are knocking at their door from the two English-speaking regions.
Nous avons reçu un bon nombre de dossiers.
We have received a good number of files, more than that we had last year. This is so because the crisis in that area is getting worse as the day goes by. A meeting for concrete steps to be taken has already been held. We receive students for both the anglophone and francophone subsystem of education.
Ce qu'il faut relever quand même, c'est que il n'y a pas que les enfants de la section anglophone qui viennent. Il y en a même qui viennent de la section francophone.
Unfortunately, if lay private institutions have decided to extend their classes to welcome those from the troubled region, it is not the case at Government High School Deido Douala.
Malheureusement, le lycée n'a pas de salle de classe extensive.
We don't have plans of extending our classes because we have a limit. Any decision to extend our class will come from the hierarchy for this academic year.
Bon, le nombre, on peut l'estimer facilement à 300 à 400.
As the school year kicks off next September 3rd, 2018, just like pupils and students rushing to Douala to seek for refuge, so too many teachers have turned to the littoral region to see how they will make ends meet.
We now talk about this macabre and shocking story, the macabre discovery in Yaoundé 5 subdivision, an incident which occurred in the early hours of yesterday. An unidentified head of a child aged between 5 and 10 was discovered in a garbage heap at the 11 neighborhood, that is in the Yaoundé 5 council area. The incident left local inhabitants in shock and consternation. Our reporter Franklin Mwabe tells us more in the following story.
It was early Monday that the terrible discovery was made. The unidentified head of a child was found in a garbage can along the Soir Road in Quartier Elever in Yaoundé 5.
Alors il y a une petite fille anglophone.
It was very early this morning when a little girl came and told me, "Papa, while I was discarding waste in that can, I saw the head of a person." In shock, I asked if there were people. She said no. Immediately, a client called me. On coming back, I saw a crowd around the garbage can. It was then that I believed the little girl. A family whose child had gone missing later came to where the head of the child was found to see for themselves, but it was a strange human head. No one could identify the victim. When you look at the head, it's like the head of a child between 5 to 10 years old. The community came out, the police also came and asked if there was a missing child in the neighborhood. In the Bembala neighborhood, we had heard there was a child who had been missing for 2 days now. The missing child was found yesterday. The police carried the woman whose child was missing to see if she can identify the head, but she could not. That is why we are gathered here to try to identify the child, but we do not know where the child is coming from. The head of the child was carried by the Council of Yaoundé 5 according to the modalities of the law. In the Elever neighborhood, many believe it is a ritual act, as a similar situation had happened in the Mimbona neighborhood some time ago. The people who carry out such acts are terrible, because it is difficult to carry a child for 9 months and one day you see something like this. It hurts. We pray the Lord reveal those who carry out such acts. Inhabitants of the Elever neighborhood now live in panic and consternation as a result of the unusual incident they have witnessed. Investigations are on course.
And Bana women here in the country's economic capital, Douala, have continued to mourn their fallen business tycoon, Kajide Foto, whom they have described as umbrella and pillar, taken away by death. They were mourning and weeping over his death. That was at his residence here in the country's economic capital, Douala, where thousands gathered yesterday night. Babila Jonathan has the details.
Women
Mothers from Bana in the west region of Cameroon, residing in Douala, lamenting over a huge loss, the death of their male father and defender, Kaji Defoso. It is a show of love for our patriarch. They converge on the Bonajo residence of the business tycoon Monday to mourn with the close relatives of the deceased. Some of them told us Kaji Defoso was everything they had.
Moi, c'est Mofo Chienga Georgette, la coordinatrice des femmes Bana de Douala. Chaque femme Bana était pour lui sa maman.
Every Bana woman was a mother to him. He was the man of all circumstances, especially for women. It is remarkable that he continued working in favor of women and his community till the last minute. He considered all indigents of Bana as his relatives.
Qu'il soit pauvre ou riche, un Bana, c'est ma famille.
Je suis la secrétaire générale des femmes Bana du Volu. Je m'appelle Madame Tienche Emilienne, épouse Nubissi. Il était un épi de paix et de justice. Les œuvres.
He was a pillar of peace and justice. The works and gifts of Papa Kaji are uncountable. Concerning the Bana women, I cannot name what he did for us. Our pillar, the Baobab, has fallen.
Notre pilier est tombé. Le Baobab est tombé. Nous sommes abattus.
Papa était notre père, notre patriarche qui nous aimait.
Papa was our father, our patriarch who loved us. Everything for him was for the Bana woman. He saw the Bana woman as his mother. He saw the Bana women as his mothers, and he loved us with all his heart at all times. He widely opened the doors of his house for us because he called us his mothers, his women, his children.
Il nous appelait ses mamans, ses femmes, ses enfants.
The entire Bana village and the nation are lamenting over what is described as the fall of a giant Baobab. 95-year-old Kaji Defoso.
Défenseur des femmes, comme on dit. Vraiment, papa. Zocho. Il n'y a pas mon capsule jeune et Douala, pas mon capsule. Notre parasol est coupé.
And that brings us to the end of this first segment of the news. Time for us to meet our guests tonight. Stay with us. We are being joined tonight by barrister at law and president of the Reform Party in Cameroon, barrister ASHU AGBOR. Emmanuel, barrister, good evening to you. Thank you so much for coming.
Good evening, Mimi. Good evening, televiewers.
I told you earlier that we are going to be discussing about the decision by the chairman of the electoral board that has decided, was announced, that polling stations would henceforth be delocalized in military barracks and palaces. What was your reaction after yesterday's announcement?
Well, finally, the Director General of Elections has come back to his senses, because it was pure madness to carry polling stations to locate them inside military barracks. You see, people do things and don't even look at the consequences. The law governing military barracks is not civilian law, it's military law. Any offense that is committed in a military institution goes to the military court. So you cannot carry civilians and give them access to a military barracks on election day. If they are inside there and there is any offense, they will not be tried by the civilian court that is competent during elections. They will be tried by the military court. So it is a nice thing that they have finally come back to their senses and they're taking away all those polling stations from the military barracks.
Is that the only reason why the presence of polling stations,
that is not the
military barracks and palaces was a problem?
That is not the only reason. You see, the first reason is that, you see, the military barracks is a place that is a no-go area for civilians. And if you ask people to go to the military barracks to vote, you see, there are many people who will not want to enter there because it is a no-go area. So just the mere mention of the fact that people have to enter military barracks is enough to intimidate voters. It's voter intimidation. So to pull that thing away from the military barracks is a nice thing.
And palaces too.
But who can shake the phone's hand? Which villager is mad to shake the phone's hand? You carry a police and put it inside a phone's palace. You think who will enter there? Who enters there ordinarily?
The Assistant General Manager of Elections Cameroon was justifying that it is not illegal because family members of the military personnel and the traditional authorities could take part in the voting exercise within the military barracks and within the palace.
Since he is justifying, ordinarily do soldiers have polling stations in their barracks? It's nonsense, total nonsense. I think it's a nice thing they came back to their senses. Voter intimidation is going to be reduced. Those who were supposed to go and vote inside those barracks and inside the phones palaces will now be free to go to whichever polling station they will register to vote.
Barrister, the context and the arena, the place where Eno Abrams Egbe actually made the announcement was not by chance. It was before some members of the diplomatic corps. What is the analysis that you make of the place, the persons, the personalities that were involved during that announcement?
I see it as trying to justify the unjustifiable. He thinks that he wants to convince the diplomats that elections can be carried on in a country that is at war. That's nonsense. The very reason that prompted them to carry polling stations to put inside military barracks and cheese palaces is because of the war situation. How can you be conducting elections during wartime? You see, that is just what that is trying to do. I believe that these diplomats are not stupid. They understand, because from the reports I heard journalists give, the diplomats were worried about the civil war atmosphere. So you cannot come to tell a diplomat that, no, we are going to have free and fair elections in the civil war atmosphere. It's not possible. So let him justify whatever he has to justify. These diplomats have their observers who will see for themselves. On election day, their observers will all go out and see whether the atmosphere is conducive for elections.
Talking about the war atmosphere, that is the scenario in the northwest and the southwest regions of Cameroon. Reason why Elections Cameroon has decided to take special measures by centralizing, that is the term that they used, polling stations. They have decided to reduce the numbers and make sure that the few existing polling centers, that is how they called it, would have to be located in a particular place which would be secured so as to secure the voters as well as the Elecam officials. What do you think about this measure by Elections Cameroon?
Well, they are trying to do their best. They are trying to do their best in a bad situation, because the real truth is that no meaningful election can be carried out in that area without that civil war atmosphere disappearing. That's the real truth. I don't understand if on that election day, the area that they call polling centers are attacked by the Amber Boys. What are they going to do? Will they say that there is security? Just one gunshot is enough for everybody to flee. So I mean, why do you insist on going on with something which everybody sees is wrong? There is a civil war situation. Solve it first. You don't want to solve the civil war situation. You want to go ahead at all costs to organize the election. Let them organize.
Is that why the barrister did not take part in the presidential election?
There are so many reasons.
Because you met a media outing telling journalists here in Cameroon in general that you are going to take part.
I don't accompany anybody.
2018 presidential election.
I will not accompany anybody to his glory. You see, you understand
to you as an individual.
Yes,
you were saying you were going to take part in the election.
I say I don't.
What happened?
Is it the
political atmosphere?
I don't accompany anybody to his glory. You will see what they will do with their elections. All those who are gracing up that they are going for elections, they will all be disillusioned. Come what may, They are only accompanying somebody.
So you gave up because you knew...
I didn't give up. I said
it was a lost battle from the beginning.
I don't accompany anybody. When there will be good elections, ASHU will take part.
Good election? What do you mean by good elections?
Elections where the real results will be announced.
When the atmosphere is taking
place. The real results will be announced, because I know that now, come what may, they will announce whatever they want to announce.
But Barrister, you knew this before announcing that you are going to take part in the election.
No. There are facts. There were facts that didn't come up. You see, there are facts that didn't come up by the time we started. But when I prepared all my documents and I was about to go and file, then I saw it. I said, but what's the need? You could see. You see, some of my colleagues came out publicly. There are many others behind who have not yet talked. There are many others. You see, it's a whole conspiracy to steal the people's victory.
At this point in time, is there any candidate that you are supporting, that you are going to be telling your supporters to rally behind?
My supporters, please don't support anybody. Don't give anybody your vote. They are only accompanying some fellow. I will not be part of that tomfoolery.
Accompanying the opposition or the regime that has been
there regime in place
for close to 40 years,
the regime
more than 35 years.
You can see, look at what happened in Boyadurade. How the pundits of the regime went and fooled the Southwest elites to go enter a hall, and then they came out to give their own position, saying that is the Southwest position. Talking
about this forum of Southwest elites, we saw the president of the Bilingualism Commission at the helm of this initiative, an authority in Cameroon whom, according to critics and observers, has to play the role of neutrality. What was your observation?
Ask them why they didn't.
When you saw that outing,
why didn't they invite people like us?
Of Cameroon?
Why was ASHU not invited? You see, they tailored out something to show their master that they are still commanding the place. It was a show. It was a theatrical piece. They avoided people who could talk and carried the CPDM stalwarts to go put up a public show. It's nonsense. They themselves know that nonsense they did in Boya does not represent the Southwesterners' view. They know it. Our people are dying every day. People are suffering every day.
Just to know that you are equally from the Southwest.
I'm from Manfe. Was I invited? Who invited me? They could not invite me because they know I will not stomach that nonsense. These are the same people who they marched that soldiers should be sent to go and kill our people. They are asking more soldiers to be sent. And after saying that nonsense, they run to Yaoundé to go and hide. Why don't they come and stay in Southwest and face the soldiers? You see, this is a conspiracy by people who have made the people suffer for years, and they are still continuing. They don't want to relent in their efforts.
But it was a meeting that was to seek for solutions and ensure effective school resumption in Cameroon, Barrister.
I can see
that. And for peace to return in the region, according to the elites.
You see that the meeting had nothing to do with all the aims, all the goals that you are talking. They did not fix any date for school reopening. They did not put in place any measures.
There is a date for school resumption in Cameroon that is known.
They didn't fix any dates. They did not fix any date for school to resume in Southwest Province, in Southwest region, because they know that there are no schools, there are no buildings. They took no measures for any school to resume. The schools have been burned down. What did they do to make sure that those schools are rebuilt and then children will safely go to school? You don't even know where the headmaster of those schools are or the principals are. It was just a show to please their master. And I think it is ugly at this point in time when people are suffering and we want a lasting solution to a situation that is causing us a lot of pain, and we are losing a lot of money from this thing. People whose only goal is to stay where they are and eat fat from people suffering go to put up a show to say that Southwesterners have said. That is not the position of Southwesterners.
Thank you so much, Barrister, for joining us tonight on
You're
Talking
welcome.
Point. We hope to have you some other time again. Thank you so much for your time. To our viewers, it was equally a pleasure having you with us in this edition of the Primetime Newscast on Equinox Television. Wishing you a blessed day in the company of our programs. Until we meet again, goodbye. Next, the Zone 2.